Hello, I'm Fawn Clarke, a nutritional therapist with a degree in psychology, and you're tuned into the Nourish Curiosity, Eat Kindly podcast. This space is dedicated to those grappling with weight loss and emotional eating. Unlike conventional approaches, I won't prescribe a specific weight loss plan because I believe lasting solutions lie beyond mere diets. Instead, we delve into the core reasons behind our eating habits, seeking to unravel the underlying challenges that shape our relationship with food. Join me on this journey of self-discovery and compassionate nourishment. Let's explore the path to a healthier, more mindful way of eating together. So today I thought I would talk about unveiling the layers of compulsive eating. So when people come to me, they say, Fawn, I've got a problem with food, or I've got a problem with my weight. And my reply to that is, food is never really the core problem. Food is a reflection of your internal state. Of course, people don't like hearing that. They just want to sort the food problem out and not have to deal with internal issues. But unfortunately, and most people really know this. They've been on so many diets, and it all goes well for a while. They lose weight or they don't lose weight or whatever happens, but eventually the diet falls by the wayside and they're back to square one. Because the diets don't address the underlying issue. And the underlying reasons behind compulsive eating are usually more to do with loneliness, overwhelm, self-doubt, tiredness, these sort of internal states. And you might not even realize that that's what's driving your desire to eat in a compulsive way. But if you pay close attention, that's what you'll find. And that's what this episode is about. It's about peeling back the layers and getting to the root of the issue. Because unless you get to the truth, you just keep repeating the same pattern over and over again, and trying to stay on a diet or try to be good with your food, whatever being good means. It won't work because the underlying issues are driving you to eat in a compulsive way. So to give you an example, okay, people, and me included, this was a real common one for me, okay. You might come in from work, or you might be at work, or you're driving home, or maybe the kids have gone to school and you find yourself alone, or maybe it's the evening time and the family have gone out, or you're not married, or whatever, for whatever reason you find yourself alone. And people often say to me, and I would have as well, turned to food. Just find yourself drifting towards the cupboards of the fridge, looking for something, looking for food. We're not hungry. Obviously, I'm always an advocate of if you're hungry, eat. But when you're not hungry and you're looking for food in an emotional way, what's going on? So if you weren't to go to food at those times and you were to take a moment and think to yourself, what is going on? What is it that I'd have to be with if I don't eat right now? Often, it can be multiple things, but often people say, well, it's loneliness. I just don't want to sit with myself. I feel lonely. And I say, okay, good. So it's not the food isn't the problem here. Loneliness is actually the problem. Okay, and we need to go deeper than just loneliness being the problem. We really need to get to the root of the issue. Okay. So what I'll say is, okay, what is wrong with feeling loneliness? What are you telling yourself about loneliness? Who's making you feel lonely? Okay, and they might say something like, well, if I sit with the loneliness and I sit with myself, it just becomes really uncomfortable because I start looking at how I shouldn't be like this. I should have more friends in my life. I should have a husband, or I should have a different husband, or a different wife, or a wife. I should have more going on in my life. everyone else seems to be having so much more fun and living a richer life, and I'm here on my own, wasting my life. That's just an example, but it could be, the story will go something like that, okay? So what's that story really saying? It's saying you're wrong. The way you're living your life is wrong. The choices you're making are wrong. The way you're living your life was wrong. Somehow, if your life was different, you wouldn't be feeling these feelings. So then, what do we do with this? And this is where the work of Byron Katie comes in, who's got really clever work about how she turns things around, the story. So basically what's happening there is, it's not really the being alone that's the problem. It's the story that we're telling ourselves about being alone, okay? And I just want to emphasize that you mightn't even be aware that you're telling yourself this story, but with time and practice, you can begin to unravel these layers. So imagine somebody said to you, or was saying to you all day long, you're wrong, you're making the wrong choice, you shouldn't have done that, no, you should be doing it better, what sort of person lives like this? Imagine somebody saying that to you all day long. How would you feel about yourself? Well, in reality, that's the way we speak to ourselves most of the time, and therefore it's no wonder that we want to turn to food as a source of comfort, to escape this feeling of we're not right somehow, our life isn't right, we're not living it right, it should be different. So that's the story, okay? That's what's creating an inner state of, this moment isn't right, it should be different. So there, and Byron Katie talks about identifying a story and turning it around, okay? So somebody could equally come into a house on their own and go, oh, thank God I'm alone. No one to answer to. I can do what I like. There's no one making demands on me. I can just relax and be with myself. Okay, that could be another way of interpreting being alone. Okay, that's another story we could tell ourselves that's much more relaxing. Okay, and what I urge you to do is to try on different stories. Is it really true that you would be happier if there were people in the house? Then they might be irritating you or saying the wrong thing or making demands of you that doesn't suit you. Think of the peace of being alone, the joy, the freedom of being alone. Is it equally true or just as true that I can be totally happy on my own? Is it true that I don't need somebody else here in order for me to feel like I'm living a life that's worthwhile? So this is at the root of so many of our issues, okay? So many of our problems are about the story we tell ourselves about the situation that we're in. I don't want to feel like this. I must be doing something wrong. It needs to be different. I think I'll just go and eat something, okay? And it happens in a split second. We don't even realize that we're doing it. But in order to stop doing what we're doing, or i.e. the eating, we really need to get to the truth of what's going on, okay? So this is where a shift happens. If we start to change the story, or we start to poke holes in the story we're telling ourselves, maybe you'll discover, actually, I'm a bit of an introvert. I like being on my own anyway. People start driving me mad. Then you start going, hang on, I've created the perfect life for myself. I'm here, I've got space on my own. How lovely. And as you start to really see the truth of your situation and see how it might be just what you need right now, you start to break through the old story. And that will create a completely different internal state where you're sort of aligned with the situation as it is right now. And you see that it's just what you need right now. Or you see maybe you don't see it's just what you need, but you start to not be so identified with the story that you've done everything wrong. Okay, we live in a world where there's so much social media and people portraying images of living some sort of life that's better than ours, and it is sometimes challenging to just allow this life, whatever we're doing, to be enough, to be okay. So you can see from this this short chat that actually the eating when we're alone is not really about lack of willpower or some problem with food addiction. It's mostly a problem with what we tell ourselves about ourselves and how much we resist things as they are. And so this is the pattern. If you can get into this pattern of really, and anyone who's been in a 12-step program will understand this process of doing inventory, where you look at fears, but you have to get to the root fear, okay? And the root fear here being, I'm basically not okay as I am. That would be the root fear here, okay? And once you identify that and realize, hang on, it is okay, there's a huge freedom. There's a space that comes into life. There's a sort of a lightening of our mood. And I just want to say another thing about loneliness, okay? There's being alone and then there's loneliness, and they're two different things. Often loneliness comes when we are lost in a story, usually a negative one, where we've sort of left ourselves. We've forgotten that we're sitting here or in our homes, on our couch, in front of a fire, whatever we're doing, and we're off in a story, usually a story about how we're not right. And that's where loneliness comes in, okay? And if we can bring ourselves back to what we're actually doing was being alone in a space, and there's no problem really with being alone. It can be perfectly lovely being alone, as long as we're not lost in the story. So I hope that's a helpful insight. That's just one reason that people might turn to food, but the process is the same, regardless of whether it's loneliness or tiredness or self-doubt. It's the story that we tell ourselves about all those things. It's not okay. Okay, so I encourage you to reflect on your own stories, your beliefs around food and loneliness, and food is actually the doorway into your belief system. So if you find yourself, if you make a decision, okay, I'm just going to eat when I'm hungry, that can be the goal, okay, and you find that a real struggle. Okay, that's interesting, right? Why do I find it so hard to wait until I'm hungry to eat? Okay, and then sit down and maybe do some writing, or even think about it if you really resist writing. What is it that I don't want to be with? What is it why can't I wait until I get hungry? What am I rushing away from? Okay, and those questions will tease out the underlying belief systems that cause you to I suppose, lose the peace that's there always. So thank you for tuning in to my podcast today. If you would like to join my free WhatsApp group, or I also do a free Thursday night Zoom meeting where it's like a community that comes together, talk about the relationship with food and ways to overcome it. Please email me, and I'm always delighted to get feedback on any of these episodes. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that would be great. It would help my ratings and make this podcast more available to other people who might need to hear it. And I'm not sure next week if I'm going to manage, being Christmas week, an episode, but we'll see how it goes. If time allows, I'll make one next week. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely Christmas, and if I don't talk to you before New Year, Happy New Year.